What is happening out there, Rotoscouts baseball fans? Good to see you, gang. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Welcome to the middle of the week. Hopefully your work week is winding down off to happy hour. Head into the weekend on a Thursday. Not a bad way to do it, especially here in the dog days of summer. Happy National Dog Day to those that celebrate. They would have a National Cat Day, but the cat would probably just plan a vacation around it and go away. Wouldn't spend time with you. Took Joker for a nice long walk. Wandered around town, talked to some folks. Celebrated our National Dog Day that way. Hopefully your day's going well out there, though. Slow start to the show chat-wise. Cujo's here, though, where he was a minute ago. Hope your day's going well, too, buddy. Good to see you. Andy's walking in the door. Congrats, Andy. You're turning into the pitching whisperer by comparison to everybody else. 3-1 on the scoreboard. I updated the last couple days of the pitching picks contest picks. Congrats to Rabbit Hole and Antonio. You guys both got on the scoreboard, but Andy currently running away with it. Anybody's game, though, still. It's a tough contest. I think this is a good one, though. I'm enjoying watching you guys make your picks and thinking about who it might be. I had a really close call on Taj Bradley last night. He went 7+, I think, right? Or pitched more than qualified for the quality start. Struck out, I think, double digits, but ended up giving up 4 runs and fell short of the mark. We're looking for 6 innings, 3 or fewer runs, quality start, plus 8 or more strikeouts. I've had a bunch of guys come up with the quality start, but not the strikeouts over the course of the contest as well. So I think it's a tough one to nail, which makes it a good contest in my mind. Win yourself a free month of Rotoscouts content. If you're not familiar, got to come back after the show, leave a comment on the video, and leave your pitching pick of the day. If I take somebody off the board during the show, you can't use them. I haven't done that the last few. I certainly won't do that on this ugliest slate. This is a bad-looking pitching slate. A couple okay options up toward the top, but this one leans toward offense. As you can see on this stacks board, we are facing a lot of middle back end of the rotation type pitchers with only a few premium options and even fewer available on the DraftKings slate. They do get the meat of the quality pitchers down here. You lose the opener follower situation. Who cares? You lose Ryan Gusto. Who cares? Sonny Gray is a tough one to take off the board, though. But that's our current scoreboard for the pitching picks contest. So Andy GPS 2 away. Need to get to 5 to win yourself that free month. Use it anytime. You can access every piece of content that hits the website all month long. So you can wait until football starts up. Wait till you got football, basketball, and hockey all going whenever you want to use it. In the meantime, promo code TRYME still going across the bottom of your screen, all one word, capital T, capital M. Get yourself a free first week on a weekly plan. Does renew at regular price after the first week. If not, cancel anytime. No commitment required, etc., yada, yada, yada. Nationals. Top of the stacks board on that FanDuel slate. The third by Vegas total. They're facing Tanner Gordon in their home park. They look great through the long tail numbers as far as the probabilities of going over 8 and 10 runs. Basically tied in that category with the Dodgers. Couple other teams, though. You can see how this board differs if you've been here the last few days when we've been looking at these. Look how many teams we've got just over the 20% mark of going over 8 runs and several teams above 10 and trending into the 11s of going over 10 runs. So a little bit more probability leaning into some of those bats. A lot of back and forth as I was putting the stacks board together between, the Vegas totals, the probability markers, some of the upside around the power matchups, the ballpark situation, which impacts the Twins. I think it's more akin to yesterday, where we were talking a little bit about how the matchup against Gage Jump was a little bit offset from the matchup the day before against Jeffrey Springs. Same thing, the run total is similar to yesterday's, half a run lower than it was on Monday. And I see similar things. Every now and again, JT Ginn can break off a very effective start, but I'm not leaning toward him by any means. But it wouldn't completely stun me if, again, at heavy ownership, we might see the Twins not completely deliver on that massive upside spot. It is certainly there. It's very competitive with every other good-looking spot on the board. But if everybody's going to that in a Coors Fieldy kind of a way, there are many other bailout spots to go to on the slate. Again, on DraftKings, you don't have that top team, but you've got everybody else that's in the deep green here as far as these probability markers go. And then your other teams that you lose are down board. You lose the upstart Red Sox a little bit against Gusto, maybe they get there for us again. Frustrating team. They were talking about them on Central this morning, saying like, yeah, even we talk about like, who's going to do it today? It's just so weird that we keep on succeeding. Yeah, it really is. You guys are really overperforming. It's time to stop. Time to normalize. Get back to losing ball games. They have been good. Marginally playable on FanDuel, I'd say. Showing a little bit of upside in the home run column, certainly through the probability marks. And against Ryan Gusto and then the bullpen, that's anybody's game as far as the Red Sox offense is concerned. The Braves knocked down the board a little bit. Great game yesterday. They're going up against Roki Sasaki today. Home run pick of the day comes from the Atlanta Braves. You can see they're number one by home run probability. Sasaki through the season has had a home run problem, pitching better under the covers than he is on the surface overall, and having an impact a little bit on where the Braves project out and definitely on those long tails. But don't be stunned if they put a few guys on base, hit a couple long balls, and chase Sasaki early, and then just put up a score in a competitive game where the Dodgers are going to be running out ahead. That was like a playoff ball game yesterday. It could be the same thing today. Dodgers are facing A.J. Smith-Shawver, by the way. Third start back. I don't expect much depth there. 5 innings tops, I would say. Hasn't completed the fifth in either of the first two, but did pitch into the fifth. Was stretched out in rehab starts, but there's a different animal in between facing a AAA team and the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I would expect about 5, but Smith-Shawver is good enough to suppress that Dodgers offense over those 5. You can see the impact he's having on their 13th ranking in home run category. There's also a really interesting pitfall here on the Astros. I'm not 100% confident because we've seen Elmer take the step up to the show a couple times. They get knocked back down earlier this season. It hasn't gone great in his first foray into action at this level, but he is a very talented pitching prospect. He's been excellent in the minors this year, and he was excellent last year. He's very good at suppressing home run power at those levels. It's just, does that translate to facing Jordan Alvarez 3 times tonight? Taking your chances if you go anywhere near Elmer on the mound for the Yankees. I also just don't like him to really go more than 5 innings at best. Good start out of him is 5 innings tonight, a couple runs on the board, and just get the Yankees through. I don't think they're looking for much more than that. So I'd be very skeptical about him. And I do think the Astros have plenty of offensive upside, even if that home run marker is true. Yanks right there next to him. Did I say the Yankees? I meant the Astros if I said the Yankees just then. The Yanks are right there next to them, though. They're showing plenty of upside. A little bit more in the mix on DraftKings where you take the Nationals off the board. That's a decent enough trade-off. Yanks are 4th overall by Vegas total. Plenty of upside against Peter Lambert. But you can see the game sims over on Fangraphs don't like them quite as much as some of those other teams at the top of the board. Something to maybe keep in mind, be aware of. But the Yanks got belly back. They went off a little bit last night. They've got upside in this spot, and it should be another competitive ball game with the Astros and Yanks both chasing playoff spots. The Orioles are showing really interesting value marks. They slip a little bit in that Vegas column, but they make it up, more than make it up, honestly, in the probabilities. 21.9% probable going over 8, 10.4% probable, 4th ranked in both categories up against Michael McGreevy, pitcher that allows a ton of contact. That's an interesting looking spot. And if the field slips against that 11th ranked Vegas total, I'm kind of interested. In fact, just realizing now that I forgot to put any placeholders in. Landlord showing up in a couple minutes, by the way. He's going to be painting the room over there by himself. I did leave the door unlocked for him, but if I have to step away for a moment, you have to forgive me. I think we'll be okay. Pretty sure he'll be able to get in. Let me just do this real quick. If you're looking at the website, projections will be fully updated immediately after the show. I am going to do my very best to get us out of here at the latest by 6 in reality this time. I actually do mean that. And I think we can do it. We've got 9 games to talk through on FanDuel. We've got 7 that are on DraftKings. We've already done a nice chunk of this stacks board with not as much to say. Honestly, it's not as fascinating a web of a slate, I don't think. It's a little bit more straightforward where like those top teams look good on offense because they're facing pretty much bad pitching or gettable spots as far as the pitching goes. And then the bottom of the board are the teams that are facing the better starters, and there's just a few things to talk about down there, like Texas with that third-ranked home run number against Sean Burke, who has been very, very good in like a breakout kind of a season, but has slipped a little bit in his last couple starts and is pushing power in the direction of those big lefty bats atop that Texas lineup. Corey Seager has found his game recently. Jock Peterson has had a strong season as far as since moving into the leadoff role, as far as hitting for power, getting on base. So that's an interesting enough spot that you can maybe justify some shares, given how they rank out 7th on DraftKings by point per dollar value, 3rd by home run upside, even though they don't exactly explode through the top of the probability marks. That would give me a reason to maybe consider some Rangers down there. The Mets are pulling the value mark, but nothing else really is all that interesting outside of that. Obviously, very appealing 2nd-ranked point per dollar. They're going up against Dustin May, who every now and then falls apart for a big game for the opposing team, but generally is very good and shouldn't really struggle to beat that Mets squad. They do have depth, though. There's a lot of playability in that Mets lineup. So when we're just talking about a cheap second stack, things like that, I think the Mets get at least onto the DraftKings board. The A's have value on both sites. They're 2nd ranked by Vegas, but you can see what probabilities in the game sims think of that. Going up against Connor Prelip, who has been good throughout his rookie season. He is a talented young lefty. I don't love that spot for the A's. I think you could get there on the value marks, but again, we've talked about their 4 best bats are not with the team right now. You're talking about Zach Geloff and Lawrence Butler, who's lefty-lefty in this situation. Not great. It's not that appealing, but the ballpark helps. It does push up that Vegas total. It becomes a at least spot where you can see them getting to that 5-6 run day. But there's significant reason through these game sims, which should be pretty tracked well toward a decent sample of Connor Prelip, that there's not a ton of upside in the tail. Talked about that one. And then White Sox just kind of dead on the vine against Mackenzie Gore, but every now and again you can get to him. So I wouldn't completely rule them out among their better bats. But we've seen the struggles that Colson Montgomery's gone through as far as just swing and miss. His game has slipped significantly through the slash line. The power's amazing. Murakami's obviously a superstar. Anytime we can get Randall Grichuk against a lefty, even a lefty of Mackenzie Gore's quality, I'll take a shot if I'm already going to the White Sox, but I wouldn't think Randall Grichuk in a platoon type situation would be the reason to go to White Sox. And then the Marlins against the best pitcher on the slate at the bottom of the board on FanDuel only is probably a no thank you. All right, those are in. All right, one last time, hit the pitching picks contest of the day after the show. Make sure you come back, make your pick. Not taking anybody off this board. You guys can have all those options. Taking a quick look over at the runs board. These out of there for clarity. So you can just see the health of the offensive slate through some of those mid to upper 4 numbers. We've got a lot more to work with through that territory. Obviously, several sub-4 implied total spots, in mostly the Marlins up at the top in deep red at 3.53 against Sonny. Again, class of the pitching slate on FanDuel. You don't get them on DraftKings. Too bad for you. The Red Sox going up against Ryan Gusto, who is marginally effective in like 4-inning starts most of the time. Last time out, 4 innings of shutout ball, gave up 5 hits to the Nats, struck out 2, walked 1, and was out of the game. 4 2/3 the start before that. 4 runs, 2 of them earned, 6 hits, 6 strikeouts, no walk, but allowed 2 home runs. Had allowed at least 1 home run in 3 straight starts prior to that. The deepest he's gone all season is 6 innings, 1 time against Atlanta, which was on August 4th. It is, I guess, at least viable that he could get there if everything goes great. That game, he gave up 1 run on 5 hits, struck out 5, walked nobody. Fairly efficient. Took the loss. If you get that day, doesn't seem very likely that we are. Sox coming in at 406. If you get that day, he's loosely playable for value, but I don't really see the upside. We'll talk about it when we get to the pitching breakdown. Red Sox bats against, though, that overperforming bunch of hitters. You're just rolling dice with them again and again, and eventually it is going to go pop, but they are at least playable. Most of them have not gotten expensive around their success. But you're talking about guys like Mickey Gasper. They were talking about him on Central this morning. Dude was not only, passed around in the he was a minor league Rule 5 pick. Bad things have to be going for you to be a Rule 5 pick in the minors. Team has that little belief in you that they're going to leave you exposed at that level. Yikes. but it's making it work. One of many Red Sox making it work. The Rockies at the Nats, pushing the top upside on the board toward the Nats. They're facing Tanner Gordon. He's pitched to a 5.75 ERA, but does have a 4.46 xFIP, given a little bit of quality. 64 Ks in 76 and 2/3, looking like a target for Nationals bats. Even with the diminished version of this lineup, they have been showing some upstart days and some quality for power around Abimelec Ortiz, the continued great season of CJ Abrams. So plenty of reason to go to the Nats on the blue side. Rockies facing Matt Waldron as an opener, followed by Will Dion. Not a ton of upside in going to the pitching there, but really not a ton of upside in the bats. 4.34 implied total. Rockies with a little bit of playability, but not a ton. They've just been bad. Rocks on the road. Never a great situation. Astros and the Yanks, I talked about it loosely, but Yanks facing Peter Lambert and the Astros going up against Elmer Rodriguez. Definitely an interesting spot for bats on both sides. Here and there, maybe a few shares of Lambert, but he's shortened up on start depth recently, still giving up a few runs each start. The strikeouts have been diminished in his last handful of outings. Overall, 3.68 ERA, but a 4.43 xFIP, kind of a warning sign going into Yankee Stadium. 4.72 implied total for the Yanks, one of the top marks on the board. The Astros implied total is a little bit lower. Maybe a little bit of credit there for Elmer and what is a pretty good Yankees bullpen by the numbers. Just maybe the ability to, if he comes through with suppressing the home run power, but wouldn't have shocked me at all to see the Astros at a half a run higher total, or a quarter run anyway. Easy to use Astros bats and Yankee Stadium helps out the big lefty and a lot of the bats in that lineup, as we saw last night. The Royals and Blue Jays, 3.89 implied total for Kansas City. They've won a bunch of games in a row. Today, they are running headlong into Spencer Miles, and it's Randy Dobnak on the mound for KC. Both pitchers keep the ball down to fairly strong degrees. Neither pitcher is what I'd call particularly good. Miles is making a short start. They've got him listed as a starter. It's a hybrid between an opener and short start type situation. I would expect 3 innings. That's what he was doing in this situation earlier in the season. He's been pitching in more traditional relief recently. He did go 4 innings in his most recent opener or starting appearance. That was back on July 17th, though. Did go 3 2/3 in relief the outing after that. A couple 2-inning appearances, but has not gone more than an inning in several weeks. So I wouldn't expect more than 3. Maybe he pitches into a 4th inning, but not giving you any DFS value. What he might do is suppress the power for Kansas City, suppress some of the run creation for Kansas City for a few innings. That is showing in the Vegas total, but KC's been very, very good lately, and it's a collection of good players. On the Blue Jays side, I actually believe in them quite a bit less. They've just been a low-end squad for most of the year. They're not showing much power against Randy Dobnak, who doesn't do much well, but limiting home run power is one thing he actually does do pretty well. Keeps the ball down to a low launch angle. He's allowed 2 homers in 45 2/3 over 7 starts this season and 2 relief outings prior to that. He's been good. Well, let me stop short of that. He's been effective at keeping the ball in the yard, and he's pitched to a 1.58 ERA over those outings. Under the surface, he's got a 4.35 xFIP, a 4.74 if you care about xERA. That's what I'm looking at on this game log sheet. So know that you're dealing with a not good pitcher who does have one positive attribute from maybe limiting some runs that are otherwise kind of showing there. That 4.70 implied total for Toronto stands out. But you can see among the teams with the better totals, even with some strong probability indicators on their tail here, they do get knocked down the board when we're just talking about fantasy projection rankings around some of those hitters, taking power out of a lineup that already kind of lacks power in general. They're 18th, dead last by home run upside today, but they are 5th by Vegas total. They're 3rd by probability of going over 8 and 10 runs. So that was a very difficult spot to rank. They're also showing a ton of points per dollar value. There's a lot of closeness on the average point scale through these teams right in here. A little bit of separation on the top 2. But that is a big-time back-and-forth situation where it would not surprise me at all if Toronto disappointed today as far as fantasy point creation. The Brewers and the Mets, I like the look of the Brewers. Solid mid-4s implied total. Great run creation engine in that lineup every single day. They're going up against Robert Stock. And then they've got Dustin May on the mound, one of the better pitchers on the slate, keeping the Mets under a 4 implied total. Definitely interesting on this board. He's worked to a 4.57 ERA, but has a nice 3.95 xFIP under the surface, a 3.36 actual FIP, 118 Ks in 124 innings with a few big-time spikes along the way. Every now and again, like the last time out, he faced Seattle. He went 2 innings, gave up 7 earned runs on 7 hits, struck out 1 and walked 2. Problematic day. Start before that, 7 innings against the Pods at San Diego, 1 earned run, 4 hits, struck out 6, walked 2. Tremendous start. 6 innings of 2-run ball to start before that, so on and so forth. But we know he can melt down here and there. You're taking a little bit of a calculated risk in going to Dustin May in what is a good spot against the Mets. Dodgers, Braves, 4.53 implied or 4.52 implied for the Dodgers side of that one. AJ Smith-Shawver is definitely a better pitcher than that, but that's reflective of just the ludicrous nature of that Dodgers lineup and the fact I think that he's going to be making a less than full start here. 4 1/3 in each of the first 2 back. Gave up 4 earned runs to the Twins the last time out, just 2 earned runs over 4 1/3 to the Mets the start before that. Struck out 4 Mets and walked 2, struck out 3 Twins and walked 3. So not exactly on form, feeding into that total as well. Wouldn't be touching AJ Smith-Shawver in this start against the Dodgers. Maybe a lesser team at value we could have picked him off, but don't think it's today. The 407 implied total on the Braves going up against Roki Sasaki, who was allowed 21 home runs in 22 starts while pitching to a 4.42 ERA, a 4.05 xFIP, striking out 114 and 116 innings. He is a little bit better under the surface than he's been on at the surface. But his meltdown days, he's had a 6-run day in there, a 7-run day in there, another 6-run day early in the season, and they've mostly come with power. There have been other days where it didn't quite completely get away from him, but a couple home runs got on the board. So if nothing else, I like the Braves as a source of home run upside, some good one-offs through that lineup at expensive prices. But I think they stack up maybe a little bit better than the Vegas board might indicate. That said, on the overall stack rankings, they're only here. Middle of the board. I talked about it already. They rank out in the middle of the board for probability, or the second half of the board for probability. But out of the second half of the board, I think they're easily the best team down there with good reason to believe they might find some DFS success. Rangers and White Sox. Again, the Rangers are showing some power upside. Whoops. What did I do over there? There we are. Rangers are showing some power upside against Sean Burke. Burke's been mostly good throughout the entire season. Last time out, though, just went 6, but gave up 4 earned runs on 7 hits, struck out just 4, walked nobody. Start before that one was the one I was thinking of, went just 4 1/3, gave up 4 earned runs on 5 hits, struck out just 2, walked 3 against the Tigers at Detroit, gave up a home run in each of his last 4 starts, had a 7-inning day against Cincinnati, gave up just 1 earned on 3 hits, struck out 8, walked nobody in that game, gave up a solo home run, and that was it. That was on the 11th. But a couple messy ones around the edges there. A little bit of regression, normalization for Sean Burke. Rangers bats at the top of the lineup, definitely a little power and danger there. But he's good enough to get through those guys, and then it's fairly smooth sailing the rest of the way through that Rangers lineup. So I can see a good day for Sean Burke, but I could also see a little bit of upstart around the lefty power atop the Rangers lineup and then the good players up there. But 3.90 implied total on a short pitching day puts Sean Burke healthily in the mix. Mackenzie Gore on the mound for the Rangers is pushing a 4.18 implied total toward the White Sox, but they rank out quite a bit worse than that on our stacks board. I don't love that spot, and I have a healthy enough respect for Mackenzie Gore. Hasn't given up more than 3 earned runs in his last 6 starts while pitching deep into games, finding some strikeout upside again. So he's a bit of a roller coaster, tends to go into dips of 2 or 3 starts and then come back to life. And we're in the back to life part of that equation right now. So I would take advantage. Definitely think it's a good spot in the White Sox. Not as good overall against lefties. Orioles in the Cards. The O's are facing, remind me, Michael McGreevy. That looks like a interesting spot that I talked about on the stacks board already. The O's showing some value, showing some home run upside, and showing some strong probability as far as getting out over those run thresholds. So I like that spot. Cobb Reddish on the mound for Baltimore. Middle of the board type of a day for St. Louis. Yeah, lower middle, actually. Not a ton of quality showing, but they're also not that far separated from teams like the Braves, the Rangers, who I was just talking about. A little more separation up here. The Brewers are more in that mix, by the way, than they are at the very top of the board, but that team's good enough to defy that as well. And then we wrap things up with that Twins and A's game. Connor Prelip, who again, pitching mostly well, 5.57 ERA, but a 3.97 xFIP under the surface, 101 Ks in his first 93 and 2/3 over 18 starts in the show. Kid's had a good rookie year. Working deep into ball games, too. He's pitched into the sixth pretty regularly. Even in the games where he fails to complete it, he hasn't been bad. 5 1/3 against Seattle back on August 1st, gave up 3 earned on 4 hits, 5 strikeouts, 4 walks. Got away from him with pitch count and efficiency there. Start before that, 5 2/3, a 1-run ball, 2 hits, 5 Ks, and a walk against the Athletics. So he was out of the game before he got through 6, but still pitched very well those days. A couple 5-inning starts and a couple bumpy ones in his last 2 outings, though. 5 innings of 3-run ball against the Brewers was okay with 7 strikeouts, but gave up 2 home runs, 2 walks that day. Next one, 5 innings against the Phils. Anybody could struggle against the Phils, but this was a bad one. 6 Ks, 4 walks, 8 earned runs on 8 hits over 5 innings. Ouch. 6 innings of pretty poor performance against the Padres, 6 earned runs. Did strike out 7, only walked 2, gave up a home run, but 6 earned runs isn't going to pay the bills, obviously. So a little bit of a downturn there, but I think that's also a spot that maybe you can get away with attacking because that A's lineup is diminished. People are not going to be using Connor Prelip on that in that situation, in that ballpark, and he's good enough to beat it. I do think he's loosely at least there. We'll look at how he compares to the rest of the pitchers in a moment. And then JT Ginn on the mound. He's worked to a 3.60 ERA, but a 4.22 xFIP. High danger situation for JT Ginn with a lot of quality showing for the Twins. But again, a pitcher who is good enough to suppress them a little bit and have a little bit of a surprise for people who rush to roster Minnesota there. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll dive over here, grab some pitchers. 443. That pitching board is obviously not sorted yet. There we go. So again, DK, unfortunately, you don't have Sonny Gray to work with on this main slate. You do get him on that early slate, I believe. But looks pretty tremendous for 10-1 on FanDuel. That said, it's not like he's pulling a near 40-point projection. He's only slightly out-projecting Sean Burke, Mackenzie Gore, those guys that are right there with him, for a fair piece more change. $1,000 difference between him and Burke. A little bit less, $600 difference between him and Gore. Both guys in that White Sox-Texas game. Again, neither one would surprise me to see those guys have a good day. That might turn into a bit of a pitching duel, but reason to believe in the lefty power for Texas, reason to believe in some of the upside for the White Sox bats. So not a cakewalk for either of those guys. There's no cakewalk on this board, really, outside of maybe Sonny Gray against the Marlins, but the Marlins have been decent enough. Cobb Radish at 81. Maybe we're throwing some darts at that spot against the Cards. 8,000 on DraftKings in the mix with these guys, but I don't like him at 8,000 as much as I like these guys at their respective prices. Even Lambert, I think, against the Yankees. I might actually take that back. Where's Bradish? What's recent form on Bradish look like? He worked deep 3 straight starts. And a couple blow-ups. Short outing. Yeah, I take that back. I think I'd rather have Cobb Radish on either side there for cheaper against the Cards than Peter Lambert in Yankee Stadium. That was a foolish thing to say. Lambert wouldn't stun me, though, if he had an okay enough day. I just don't like that $9,000 price on him on FanDuel, where you just, if I'm going to that price tier, I'm just going to find an extra $100 and probably play Sean Burke, a much better starter overall. 87 on DraftKings, again, right in that mix with the top of the board, but not a good situation there with the Yanks gaining some health back and showing plenty of quality on their end of that game. Dustin May, incredibly playable at 7,300. That's probably your best purchase on DraftKings. Doesn't project quite to the top of the board, but definitely competitive and enough ceiling, or more than enough ceiling, to surpass any of those guys that are ranked out above them projections-wise. That Mets lineup, again, is deep, but by and large has underperformed throughout the season. May can find some strikeout upside against them. He can definitely suppress some runs, but when he goes bad, he goes way bad. Some of the other starters are more manageable bad starts. Dustin May tends to explode when he goes bad. 86, not a bad price on FanDuel. McGreevy at 65 on DK. Sure, you're throwing the value dart because thin options on that side. At 82 on FanDuel, really unnecessary. I'm more interested in Orioles bats against him from those interesting ranks that we saw as far as that stack goes. So I'm looking to target McGreevy on FanDuel, but he's definitely going to be a part of your pitching mix on DraftKings if you're building more than a couple lineups, and one of the more viable SP2s. I do think the Prilip's playable in that same vein, but at much higher danger. Much as I do like the Orioles offense, and I actually like it more than the Athletics offense, I think that you definitely have to respect the just dangerous situation of pitching in that ballpark out in Sacramento. So Prilip could be in some trouble, but he also has more strikeout upside, more talent for pitching deep for the money at 6,200. And where McGreevy's going to be owned in his spot versus where Prilip would be owned as an SP2, there's no comparing. It's going to be way, way lower. Only a fool would roster Connor Prilip in this spot. I would be enthusiastic about doing it, quite honestly, on DraftKings. I'd rather have him than Robert Stock at 5, although there's a good argument to be made for just throwing that dart a couple times. That's just one of those value plays that is so cheap that we don't even need much. Stock went 4 1/3 in each of his last 2 outings. Got out to 5 innings against the Marlins back on August 2nd. In between those, he had a 3-run day at Pittsburgh where he gave up 8 earned runs, struck out 4, and walked 5. That was kind of problematic. He's walked 3 in each of his last 2 starts and didn't complete the 5th, but he only gave up 1 earned run combined across the 8 2/3 innings against the Padres and Nationals. So again, for 5,000, knowing that there's a little bit of strikeout potential there, 6, 5, 4, and 4 strikeouts in those 4 outings of limited depth. For the money, I have no faith that it's actually going to work out, especially against that high-quality on-base machine that the Brewers have. But at 5 on DK, that's playable. At 68 on FanDuel, I don't think we're getting to a quality start. I don't think you've got the upside that you would actually need from that price point. And you've got other options, right? Like if you're doing that, you probably play Randy Dobnak at 75 and get to basically the same bats. Like at a point on FanDuel with the way the prices are, you're just leaving money on the table, or you're just building inefficiently constructed lineups that just strive to spend all your money, which is not the correct way to do things. So I don't know that we need Robert Stock at 68 on FanDuel, and I don't like the situation. JT Ginn at 87 on FanDuel is a hard no. He is good enough here and there to get to that price, but I don't see it in this spot with the Twins showing so much upside. It's just the spot where, hey, he might surprise, keep the Twins off the board a little bit more than the public might expect. At 68, that's a playable dart on DraftKings. Dobnak for fair mid-board type prices on either side could go out there, twirl 5 and change of low-scoring ball by the Blue Jays on the other side. Just expect no strikeout upside whatsoever. You're just looking for a handful of clean innings on a day where everybody in this range might go completely bust, and just leave 5 okay innings of Randy Dobnak for that price as perfectly fine. So he is loosely playable. Not all that appealing on FanDuel at 75. Smith-Shawver, I just question what any kind of upside for depth would look like beyond 5 innings, and it's the Dodgers on the other side. Roki is not mispriced. 83.77 is perfectly fine, even against the Braves and their quality. I would just be worried about all the power downside and how much of it the Braves are looking to extract. Again, the home run pick of the day comes from the Braves. It's an obvious one. But Sasaki, again, from those price points, does have a little bit of ceiling beyond where he's projected anyway. Bottom of the board, Gusto, pretty firm no around no depth. Will Dion in bulk relief against the Rockies feels like a no. Elmer at 67.55 is a wild card. Definitely more so than Spencer Miles from further down. I didn't want to get carried away with Elmer. He didn't project out great just naturally against the Astros. I only gave him the 5 innings that I'm talking about. But that is a very talented young pitcher who does have one strong attribute in keeping the ball down and keeping the ball in the yard that should at least translate early. As mentioned already, he struggled in his first few outings. He's thrown 17 innings in the show over 4 starts this year. He's given up 9 earned runs, 19 hits to 83 batters in the 17 innings. Struck out 10 and walked 11. But he's only allowed 1 home run over those innings. That came in the most recent start. That was against the Reds. So at least a little bit of potential upside suppression going on from Elmer. But again, you're just dealing with a wild card at 55 there. In the mix, maybe as much as Robert Stock on DK, though. If you're going to throw that $5,000 dart from only a few points further up the board, you can throw it around Elmer. He certainly comes with plenty of strikeout potential. And If he goes more than 5, you're winning. You're doing well because he's done well. Tanner Gordon, no. Spencer Miles, no. Matt Waldron, just an opener. Miles, again, just due for like 3 innings here. So I don't think we're getting anything there. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel. We've got a little bit more than an hour to get through these 9 games. We'll be okay. Don't worry, gang. A lot of lineups are in. One of the reasons I got to get out of here early is just get them updated on the old website, rotoscouts.com, by the way, if you're new. Promo code TRYME, about to scroll across the bottom of your screen. All one word, capital T, capital M, gets your free first week on a weekly plan over at Rotoscouts. It renews at regular price if not canceled in between. No commitment required. Just use the promo code at checkout on a weekly. Monthly and quarterly plans also available. They include every single piece of content that hits that website across all 4 major sports. Focused on the main slates for football, we handle every single game, all the showdowns, the European games, all the nonsense. Football content should start trickling out to the site, hopefully tonight. Depends on if my buddy Charlie comes over and we have a couple beers or not. If he does, it'll be tomorrow. If he doesn't, probably tonight. But for the weekend, for sure, because this weekend, next weekend, the big draft weekends for season long. And then obviously we're diving headlong into weekly DFS and a lot of busy work for me. Should be fun. Anyway, Red Sox, Marlins, Sonny Gray, top of the board overall for pitching. 21.8% K, 6.4% walk-on this season. Another just strong Sonny Gray type year, 2.79 ERA. A little bit worse on the xFIP, the Sierra, 3.64, 3.83, but those are not problematic numbers. He's good at inducing weak and medium contact. Plenty good to beat this Marlins squad. If you're looking at the Marlins, they've got some good power bats up toward the top of the lineup now. Kyle Stowers from the left side has plenty of pop in that bat. 16 homers and 406 chances. Griff Conine, 14 in just 217 opportunities. He's also getting on at a 355 clip, creating runs 38% better than average, looking fantastic through the weighted on base numbers over a fairly decent sample now. He strikes out a ton, but he draws a lot of walks, and obviously he's getting on base. And look at what he's doing premium contact-wise. Look at what all 3 of these guys are doing with premium contact. And those are strong attributes that are backed up by their performances in previous seasons when we've had them. Heriberto Hernandez has been fantastic. He's got 20 home runs on the board and 373 chances this year. 231, 311, 459. I'll take it against the 228 ISO, 349 xWOBA. Not bad. He's only striking out 27% too, drawing a near 10% walk rate. Heriberto is just good, kind of underrated. 2,800 on FanDuel. Plenty of reason to believe in those 3 players. And then you've got at least 2, maybe 3 good mixers going down the rest of the board. Xavier Edwards, sure, around the hit tool, slashing 286, 365, 383. Good run creation marks. He's even driven in some. 19 stolen bases on the board, a 108 WRC plus. Otto Lopez, 306, 342, 444, 27 steals, 9 homers, a 114 WRC plus. Otto's been killing it through most of the season. He's a little expensive at 33, but second base shortstop, pair him with XE, take both middle infielders. Not a bad combo. The other mixer that I was maybe looking at is Joe Mack. At 27, he's shown some reasonable upside for power from the left side, so we're just sneaking bats in for cheap prices against Sonny and just gambling here. And again, Sonny, not a good target for home run upside. He keeps the ball down mostly, 2.66% home runs, 38% hard hits, only a 6.5% barrel rate. But if I'm going in that direction, maybe Joe Mack playing him like he's a first baseman from this team makes a little sense. That said, both Stowers and Conine have first base eligibility, so it would depend very much on what I'm looking to put them together with. In between there, Jacob Marcy, just a speed-based player. He's getting on now at a 330 clip, though, which should create some interesting opportunities for him from that spot. Also another lefty, but just hit tool-oriented, drawing a nice walk rate at 13.1. Owen Casey, I missed him. As I was saying that would be another good option down there. 14.6% barrel, 46.2% hard hits, 13 homers and 297. A lot of inconsistency in his game, just a 293 on base, which makes him a lower end option than a lot of these guys up here who just get on base, do more interesting things, contribute a little bit more. And you can see that through the WRC plus, just a 95 for him compared to those well above average marks for those other guys. But Casey does have very real power upside, premium contact upside for a fair enough price from the left side at 2,800. Javier Sanoa, just a mixer at the bottom of the lineup. No priority whatsoever in terms of playing him as a bat. Ryan Gusto, again, I'm just expecting a relatively short start here at Augusto. Maybe we get 5, but he hasn't completed 5 in the last 3 starts. 5 innings, 6 innings, the 2 prior to that, but had not completed 5 innings all year before those 2. So every now and again, I'm talking 5 out of 100 times, maybe he's booking that sixth inning, but you're probably just getting 5, and it's probably not going to be a pretty day. Red Sox coming in at a 4-run total, this overperforming group, but they keep on doing it, so we got to keep on talking about him for now. Nick Sogard, a world beater at the top of the lineup, 275, 389, 405. He's getting on base like crazy, 126 WRC plus. You can see the overperformance, 356 weighted on base against a 327X, but just a light hitting slap hitter who doesn't really strike out. He's drawing a ton of walks uncharacteristically right now. It's over 160 chances. You give him another 200-300, I would expect some normalization there. 4.8, 8.1% walks the last 2 seasons. More strikeout in his game the last 2 seasons, but maybe some actual improvement going on. No way to really know in this few plate appearances, but given the spot in the lineup, the price, the positional flex, extremely playable if you're considering Red Sox bats. Cedric Rafaela, 16 homers, 17 steals. The counting stats are great. We would, as I've said many times already to you guys, give him another 500 plate appearances, and this would completely normalize downward as far as that slash line goes. But he would keep on racking up counting stats, and that's all we care about from the 2 spot at 3,100. Again, another guy with multi-position eligibility. That's a nice feature with this Red Sox team, by the way. Much as I kind of tongue-in-cheek badmouth them to a degree, although everything I say is accurate about the fact that they're mathematically overperforming, they provide so much upside through just all that positional flex. Look how many guys play at least 3 positions, let alone 2. And look at the prices they come in at. So even though you're getting guys that are lesser, the Mickey Gaspers and Andrew Monasterios of the world, you're finding success again and again with them, and you can put them wherever you want. So they're very conducive to just stacking with whatever other team you want. So it makes sense that we're seeing them in the mix a fair amount for just winning lineups, scoring runs, putting things together, and putting pieces together wherever. Caleb Durbin hitting cleanup now. Why not? 12 home runs, 16 stolen bases. We've talked about him plenty. League average 100 WRC plus is who he is. 319 weighted on base, a 100th of a point below league average. 285 xWOBA, significantly further below average. It's just the truth. It's just who Caleb Durbin is. Miscast in a traditional cleanup role, but with the way that this lineup comes together and just everybody contributes in different ways, it doesn't really matter. Gasper, not much of a bat, but has found that 9.3% barrel rate, which is kind of interesting. 5 home runs in 148. 2 last night, I believe. Might actually need to give Mickey a little something on the back end to push that. That's too low because he's already probably exceeded whatever he was projected for in the rest of the season projection. Yeah, 0.65 home runs. He beat that last night. I give him like 3.5 just on a whim here. Where does that put him? See, that's what I hate. 4.57, that would push that mark up too much against just the back end projection. And that completely breaks giving him that many home runs in 125 plate appearances, which is tracking to be true. Kind of breaks the back end against how he actually hits the ball. Let me just put it there for now to balance what it actually should be. 262. That's a little better. Just again, very reflective of a player who is playing over his head right now. 38.9% hard hit rate, but 5 home runs on 148 plate appearances. Difficult to quantify. Andrew Monasterio, mix and match type talent, 253, 311, 410, and 98 WRC plus. Downboard Jarren Duran has really struggled through the season overall, but has very interesting counting stats and is a much better player than this line always has been. Anthony Siegler, Connor Wong, just mixers at the bottom, but again, Red Sox are finding success all over the lineup. Sonny Gray with a bullet. Red Sox bats, Marlins bats, Ryan Gusto. It is a beautiful day in New Jersey, Greg. Joker and I took a nice long stroll earlier. Handful of people here hanging out for today's show. I was expecting a lighter crowd with a late start. Short announcement, but appreciate you guys. Rockies 4-3-4 in play going up against the Nats at 4-7-6. Nats are rolling out an opener follower with Matt Waldron, followed by Will Dion. Dion's gone 31 2/3 in bulk relief like this, 30.2%. Strikeout is very good. Has the upside to wipe out the Rockies over the innings that he pitches, but we're not going to get a lot of depth, no reliability toward any kind of win bonus. And FanDuel, that's just dead in the water as far as any kind of quality start. Even for the 55, pretty skeptical you could get there on any kind of points. But if anything, that strikeout would give you that kind of potential. Last time out, 3 innings, 4 Ks, just 1 inning of traditional relief work before that. But if you get something like the start he had against the Mets on the 15th, or the appearance rather he had against the Mets, he faced 14 Mets over 4 1/3. Obviously, didn't get a win, no quality start in the mix here, and we're talking about FanDuel, but he did strike out 7. He only walked 1. So when we're talking about just how the math bumps up against the construction at 5,500 on a bad pitching slate, it's not a recommendation, but there is an angle there. If you understand what I'm saying, it's not something I think is going to work out. It's not something I want to endorse or say you should go do. But I do want to acknowledge that at that price, that angle does somewhat exist against such a bad team and such a high strikeout team as the Rockies. But the times you're going to succeed are probably greatly outweighed probability-wise against the potential prize. So I don't think it's worth doing mathematically. Rockies bats against that situation, though, not all that appealing. Pretty low-end overall lineup. They do have Hunter Goodman back in the mix, though. 3,500 monster bat, 35 homers on the board, so 120 WRC plus. Definitely a boon to their lineup. Mickey Moniak sliding down the board with the lefty bulk reliever. Definitely power upside for Mickey, but probably not going to see anybody that he can hit one against, at least not early in the game, not for most of his plate appearances, but still drawing an 11.79 in the home run model. He's hit 21 long balls in 352 chances. In between those guys, overperforming Jake McCarthy up at the top of the board at 32. That's a little bit more than I would want to pay for what his actual talent is. Cole Carrig is interesting at 3. He's had a good 248 plate appearances, 268, 352, 446. Most importantly, the on base ahead of Hunter Goodman is just what you're looking for. So that's not a terrible pairing. Goodman probably also in the outfield. You just take 2 outfielders and maybe you just grab 3 outfielders off the top, or those 2, Carrig, Goodman, and Mickey Moniak, and run with it. And don't take a 4th guy, 1 off the 4th spot on FanDuel. Rumfield's playable, but you're looking at hit tool and batting average, little on base skills running into Willie Castro, Mickey Moniak. So a consideration there, but you're talking again about a lefty bat. Willie fills out different positions for cheap. 2,900, not a bad price for a guy with 15 homers, 9 stolen bases, and 98 WRC plus isn't where we want him, but he is finding success, overperforming his ex-Wobo a little bit, getting on base with reliability. So he's been a good piece for this team, kind of like we figured he would be after years of being a utility guy. Connor Norby's got a little bit of power potential, but it just has not been unlocked at this level. Troy Johnston is another hit tool focused lefty, 282, 352, 394, but no power upside, very little run creation, even with that good slash line, 96 WRC plus. And then Ezekiel Tovar is just one of the worst players in the league. On the Nats side, one of the top options on the board, the top stack on FanDuel, CJ Abrams, monster in the leadoff role, 17.84 in the home run model for CJ. He's facing Tanner Gordon, who's allowed a 10+% barrel on a 19.3 degree average launch, 44% hard hits, 91.3 miles an hour of exit velocity on average over his 6 starts, his 76 2/3. All of this is problematic. That is a very real 4.73% home runs. That is bad. Monster upside for these 2 hitters. Dylan Cruz, I'm a believer. I think there's talent there. It's been up and down over his first couple years in the show, but still young, still needs to have time to figure it out. 213, 287, 357, not good. 10 home runs, 8 steals, and 331 is okay. Got a 318 xWOB under the 288 actual, at least something to shoot for, but still below average. What I'm interested in, 9.9% barrel, 43.7% hard hit. The barrel backed up by last season's numbers. Had an up and down kind of a performance last year that is very similar to what's going on this year. 208, 280, 352, 10 homers, 17 steals. But you can see the raw skill set at worst through these stat lines over basically one combined season. So I'm a believer in the talent. If I'm a believer in the talent, I'm not going to leave him on the board against a pitcher like Tanner Gordon. He can find plenty of upside here. Might as well have him facing a batting tee. In between him and CJ, Abimelec Ortiz, monster premium contact upside, 5 home runs and 72 plate appearances, 11.8% barrel, 41.2% hard hit, was flashing power like crazy in the minor leagues. Abby had 18 home runs and 365 plate appearances as a 24-year-old, roughly on schedule at AAA this year. Sub 20% strikeout as well, 19.5 and an 11.8% walk. 115 WRC plus, 372 xWOB under his 368 actual. That's a hitter. And he's been pretty good on arrival. Monster lefty at the top of the lineup. Dalen Lyles found a lot of success. 17 homers, 13 steals. It's just inconsistent. He gets on at a 297 clip, just a 93 WRC plus, kind of reflecting some of that downside. Low strikeout, low walk, though. So you're just looking to buy a piece of contact, hopefully with some of those guys ahead of them on base if we haven't already cleared the bases with their power. Andres Chaparro, monster power as well. 14% barrel, 46.2% hard hit, 8 homers and 150 plate appearances. 353 on base to go with that. He only had 1 in 73 chances last year, 4 in 132 the year before that. Somewhere along the way, there was more, wasn't there? Or was it just that one I was thinking of? Didn't I do this the other day? I think I did. Maybe it was just that 2024 I was thinking of. Yeah. In the minors, since I'm here, 15 homers in 233 chances last year. 23 in 457 chances in the minors in 2024, plus the 4 he hit in the show. 25 the year before that. So very real power for Chaparro. Typically, we're looking to get him against a lefty when he pops into the lineup at cheap prices, but I don't mind him here again against a bad righty. Might as well take the power upside, 9.33 in the home run model. We hit a little bit of a downside here. Jose Tena, Harry Ford, not really interested in the catcher all that much on the FanDuel slate. Tena doesn't give us all that much. Has interesting premium contact numbers. I will give him that. 4.59 in the home run model. If you need a cheap option to reduce price here against an already cheap stack, 2,400 just for the 9.3% barrel, the 49.7% hard hit. It hasn't resulted in much. 7 homers, 233, 313, 388, 94 WRC plus. Pretty bad. But that is cheap potential for a batted ball. Ford, no. Nasim Nunez is only here to steal bases, getting on at a 300 clip, a 58 WRC plus. All he has is those 42 stolen bases, and there's nothing predictive about any of that. Jacob Young, phenomenal center field defense. He does have 10 homers and 15 stolen bases, not completely dead at the bottom of the lineup, but nobody you're rushing to get in your lineup either. Nationals bats in a big way. I guess Rockies bats, and then like that Will Dion wild card, if you want it, is kind of sitting there at 55, but you need those strikeouts and you need them to go at least 4. If you can find a way to a win, that would be even better. Astros, Yankees, welcome in DraftKings slate. Jordan Alvarez, very expensive at 66 on DraftKings, but basically everybody else pretty cheap. Pena, not mispriced at 51 atop the lineup, and then you get Isa Paredes at 39, Jose Altuve at 41, Dalton Varsho cheap from the left side, Christian Walker at 36, facing a rookie starter who 4 starts in the show, 17 innings, 12% strikeout, 13.3% walk. I mentioned earlier, I believe it was 10 strikeouts, 11 walks, but has already been good at limiting power. In those 4 outings, has allowed 1 home run. It's a 1.20% home run on a 9.4 degree average launch, 5.1% barrel. Look how good he's been despite giving up those runs at limiting hard hits and exit velocity as well at this level. And all of those are stronger assets as you look at his minor league numbers. He strikes out hitters in the minors. Elmer is a very good pitching prospect. I'm just not convinced we're developed enough to take on this Astros team in this situation, in this ballpark, with them drawing a 4.38 implied total today. A lot of that is priced into the 55 on DK. Elmer is very much a part of the SP2 conversation on that slate. At 67 on FanDuel, like I've said a few times already, I think it's 5 innings of quality, and thank you very much, Elmer. We see Aaron Boone walk out to the mound and take him out of the game. If he goes beyond that, you've already gotten your upside and you're good enough anyway. But your path to a quality start is really, really thin, even for that low price on FanDuel. Could he get there? Yes. Will he get there? Probably not. Peter Lambert for 87 for 9,000. He's worked to a 3.68 ERA, but I'm concerned about the 4.44 xFIP, the 4.19 Sierra. Low strikeout, high walk, doesn't collide well with the Yankees. They do draw a lot of walks. Even with some strikeout in their game, there's multiple guys that are lower strikeout through this lineup now, and just multiple double-digit walk rates from power-hitting bats. Lambert hasn't given up a lot of premium contact. 36.6% hard hits, just 88.7 miles an hour. No home run problem for him, but the ball's in the air. 18.9 degree average launch angle. This is a fly ball pitcher going up against a homer-happy lineup in a homer-happy park. Nice warm day here in the New York area to boot. So big game for both these teams. Offense showing on both sides. I'm leaning into the bats more than I am the pitchers. If Lambert was coming in the door at 77 on DK, 8,000 on FanDuel, shave 1,000 off both, then we'd be more into him. I'd be talking about him a little bit more. But you can see even through the stuff category, the plus categories, it's below average across the board. Just barely as a locator, but I mean, give him the credit for the 100th of a point that he's below average as a locator. Now he's just an average pitcher, and you're still throwing him into Yankee Stadium. Doesn't make sense to me. Not these numbers. Going to the Astros lineup. Pena, utter priority on either site at shortstop. That is a good player. Good way to fill shortstop. Apologies to Jeremy Pena for things I said about him earlier in his career. He is definitely gained my trust. 286, 339, 477, 15 homers, 8 stolen bases, a 129 WRC plus. He's honestly underpriced by a little bit. $100, $200, but a little under. Jordan makes up for it. 36 long balls. First triple of the year came last night in a big spot. Dude's just the best hitter in the game. Throwing him up against a completely inexperienced righty. Jordan alone could break Elmer Rodriguez's heart, could change the trajectory of his career tonight if Jordan goes out there and destroys 2 of his pitches. Isaac Paredes is very cheap at $39.29. Dude gets on base. Bad home run park for him, but just get on base, correlated scoring. There's a lot of upside in playing Isaac Paredes if you're going to this Astros team in the first place. Altuve is kind of the same thing these days. Just here and there, contributor, 14 home runs, pretty poor slash line, not on base enough anymore, low end weighted on base marks, 1 point below average as a run creator, but just up there frustrating pitchers, putting the ball in play, doing those Altuve things at a reduced price at second base on both sites. It's reasonable enough to go to him if you're going to this team, but he's no longer the draw to this squad that he once was. Varsho, just a limited lefty with a little pop. Anytime we can get a lefty with a little power in Yankee Stadium, though, we know what that can do. That said, pretty low-end home run mark again against a kid who has demonstrable ability to induce weak and medium contact and keep the ball on the ground. Christian Walker, a lot of power upside. Taylor Trammell, Cam Smith, both providing a lot of barrels. A lot of inconsistency for all 3 of those players. 23 homers for Walker, 17 for Cam Smith, and 10 stolen bases, but only getting on at a 284 clip, so he can't pay off his full skill set. I do believe in the development for Cam Smith, though. That's a very talented kid. I think there's an upward trend for Smith. Maybe Taylor Trammell can catch a little bit of breeze from that solid barrel rate he keeps putting up. 214 plate appearances deep, 7 homers, pretty bad slash line, just a 91 WRC plus. So not a lot there yet, but maybe at least one good indicator of life. Walker, not bad as far as the contact numbers. We've seen him be much better than this in years past. This is just who he is now. But any given slate, power upside, Yankee Stadium obviously favors some power upside. Not so much for righties, of course, though, because you get Death Valley in the mix a little bit. You know, he pulls one to left center, and it gets problematic as far as hitting one out. But certainly the ability to yank one down the left field line. Elmer doesn't trend that way, but Walker knows how to hit home runs against rookies. Christian Vasquez, just a mixer at the bottom of the lineup. Cheap catcher bat, doesn't really do much. 7 home runs on the board, just the oddball power bat. But, here and there, throwing darts if you're building a bunch of Astros stacks on DraftKings, sure. Yanks, slightly more appeal. They were slightly outpacing the they were behind the Astros. They were ahead of them on the Vegas rankings, but they slipped behind via probability. Fantasy point projection only barely. Value is off by a little bit by comparison to their opponent on DraftKings. A little bit better point per dollar value on the FanDuel slate for the Yanks. Plenty of upside to play them. Benji Rice showing a 10.44 in the home run model. He's got 34 on the board. Diminished overall slash line against, I think, expectations, particularly what he set early in the season. But you have to account for the fact that he's just carrying the load for this team with Aaron Judge out, with Giancarlo Stanton out, with Cody Bellinger having missed a handful of weeks recently. Just a lot of weight on Ben Rice's batting average and on-base skills these days. And he's mostly carried through anyway. 140 WRC plus for the season, 371, 370 weighted on base and xWOBA. Trent Grisham has been trending upward in recent weeks. We've talked about it a little bit. 18 home runs, 9 steals, 318 on base percentage, just involved quite a bit, draws a ton of walks, doesn't strike out a lot. Nice improvement in his strikeout rate year over year in this 2/3 of a season he's had. Double-digit barrels, 46.6% hard hits. Trent Grisham, very good for 3,200, 43 on DraftKings to attack a righty who, again, doesn't give up that much power, but has an issue with walks, plays right into Trent Grisham. Has an issue with fly balls, plays right into lefties in Yankee Stadium. So plenty of visible upside on Trent Grisham. Ben Rice, same thing. Luis Garcia went deep last night, 27 home runs on the season. He's going to get to 30. Another lefty in Yankee Stadium, monster upside for premium contact. He's only 3,000. I don't get it. This is back-to-back years. He had a breakout last year, and he's added on to it this year, and he's only 3,000. He's slashing 283, 317, 554, 271 ISO, 134 WRC plus. Dude's just good. I don't get why he's so cheap. He's 5,000 at first base on FanDuel. That's less than ideal overall. A little bit too expensive for him, especially if in combination with like Rice. Cody is 47, which is arguably cheap for him, but it becomes it's a snowball that rolls up a price tag pretty quickly. But the idea that you can get Rice at catcher, still play Louis Garcia at first base and go through the Yankees lineup anyway, no positional conflict, not bad as far as the positioning goes. Belly at 47-31 had a game yesterday, 12 homers, 10 steals, 348 on base, 118 WRC plus for the former MVP. George Lombard Jr. and Spencer Jones, two rookies paying off a lot of quality. We've talked quite a bit about Spencer Jones on this show. 7 home runs, 8 stolen bases, kind of putting it together overall, getting more comfy out there. 182 plate appearances of 107 WRC plus, and just star caliber premium contact. I'll say it again. That is Titanic premium contact, and that's his game. That is just who he is. A lot of strikeouts, but also a lot of walks. 3 true outcomes type hitter with maybe a little bit more skill than that. He also steals bases. Jazz Chisholm stole his 35th of the season. He's also got 18 home runs. Counting stats good. Slash line bad. That's just the nature of Jazz right now. Austin Wells quietly has put up an 800-something OPS over the last month plus, finding his premium contact a little bit more. Invisible in the slash line, but it makes him a little bit more playable because you're just looking for one cheap piece of premium contact at 2,500 where you have to play catchers. And those are kind of going through it lately, down to 233, 291, 372. But given the speed and the uptick for power that he showed earlier in the season, there's playability there at worst. He's cheap. He fills multiple positions on both sides. Yankees bats, Astros bats, even though I have it ranked the other way around. Just screw the Astros. No, it's I'll go with the actual stack rankings. Slightly Astros over Yankees, but there are good arguments to be made in either direction, right? The Astros limited by home run potential against if Elmer comes through with his talent. Yanks show a little bit more just across the board quality, but they do get dinged in that long tail against Lambert, more so than the Astros show a little bit of upside through that. So a lot of back and forth in that one. I don't want to fence it too much. So yeah, Astros, Yankees, very close. And then we'll go, I guess it's got to be Lambert generally on quality, but I do not want to pay those prices for Peter Lambert. So it's difficult to actually rank him there. Elmer on DraftKings, loosely playable, not on FanDuel. I don't think you need it. So we just had to find Lambert. We needed a ranking in that list. But again, I don't like that spot for him at that money. We've seen worse pitchers beat the Yankees plenty of times. That's the nature of their game. When they go bust, but I don't love his potential. Dobnak, 75 on both sides, just 14.8% strikeouts, too many walks, but aggressively keeps the ball down, keeps the ball in the yard. 7 starts, 45 2/3, an 8-degree average launch, limiting premium contact in combination with launch angle as well, just 3.4%, barrels a 1.02% home run. But you can see he's just a locator, soft tossing type locator, no pitch anywhere close, not even within 10 points of league average, let alone below average. Look how bad this stuff is. My God. But well above average locator. You can put the ball where he wants it. It's just kind of sitting out there on a tee, and if he makes a mistake, it can go sideways in a hurry. That said, the Blue Jays not exactly capitalizing even in good situations this year. You've got George Springer with 12 home runs in a bad season overall, 10 stolen bases, league average 100 WRC plus. You got Kaz Akamoto with 26. Nobody else is over 10. 519 plate appearances from Ernie Clement. He's at 9. He's the next highest guy. Ernie Clement has 2 more home runs than Vladdy Guerrero this year. That's absurd. Nathan Lukes has 8. Andres Jimenez has 8. Jesus Sanchez is actually good and hits for power, but only has 8 home runs. Talked about Jesus in each of these seasons for his ability to just blast the baseball and somehow come away with just this kind of line every single year. One of these years, he's going to explode, and people are going to be, holy shit, where did he come from? This is not that year, but if you're considering Blue Jays, he's going to be under-owned for those prices against a very gettable righty. So if I'm rostering Blue Jays, that might be my honestly top priority bat. Apologies to Akamoto. His power is great, but 229, 302, 436. You get more consistency out of Jesus Sanchez for a cheaper price. And I'm not occupying first base with him. Third base eligible on both sides for Akamoto is where you would want him. If I'm actually stacking this team, Akamoto is absolutely a priority in there with Sanchez. It's those two. It's obviously Vladdy. We're not leaving Vladdy behind, even though 262, 335, 354, 7 home runs, 95 WRC plus might suggest we should. You don't go to this team and not take him in that situation, especially with the price way down. Kind of like I said about Skeens last night. These guys that you know are superstar level talents, even when they're going through it, that's why you go back there, because you want to be there for the explosion. You don't want to be there for the next slate after he proves himself, after he breaks out. You want to be there that day at the cheapest possible prices, at the lowest possible ownership. So you go back to him when you build with this team, but he's a lot less of a priority draw to the team. Brett Bateman, just a slap hitter, gets on base in the leadoff role, set the table for Vladdy and so forth. Alejandro Kirk is a good hit tool focused catcher, gets on base, definitely playable at 33 if you're going to the squad on DraftKings. Further down the lineup, Nathan Lukes gets on base a little bit, but this year it's down to 316, mostly focused via BABIP, a 14.9% strikeout, 5.7% walk, so a lot of low-quality balls in play. Same thing with Ernie Clement. Honestly, same thing with Andres Jimenez down lineup. So you've got 4 of the same guys in a row, from Nathan Lukes through Clement, Jimenez, and then back up to Bateman. That is not a quality build. So reason this team is pretty bad. Pretty bad while they're a couple games out of a playoff spot in the ridiculous American League this year and so on. But not performing up to standards offensively, let's say. The surging Royals going up against Spencer Miles in what will be a 3-4 inning start like we talked about. He's striking out 22.5%. Been very interesting keeping the ball down. 6.5 degree average launch, just 3.5% barrels in. Weak and medium contact galore, 35.2% hard hit. So very real suppression of power going on against Kansas City's numbers. They're coming in at just a 3.89 implied total. Vegas likes the look of the streak to stop here. But nothing about Spencer Miles and then the Toronto bullpen is really suggestive of that. A little bit of collision of some of the season-long numbers, I think, going up against some of the suppression numbers that are in there for Spencer Miles. But on the right day, this high-quality Royals lineup comes in here, does their thing, keeps strikeout down, puts bat on ball, maybe draws a walk or two, and maybe it's not a home run that breaks Spencer Miles back, but a 3-run double, something like that, goes a long way toward doing the same thing. And you've got plenty of upside for power. You've got plenty of upside for quality through at least that top 5. And then upstart guys like Tyler Tolbert in the 8 spot. All Tyler Tolbert does is steal bases. 19 stolen bases in 124 plate appearances, getting on at a 358 clip. He's also contributed 3 home runs. He's very, very cheap. Second base eligible on FanDuel. Shortstop outfield on DraftKings at 38. Get a little bonus scoring out of him. He's got a 119 WRC plus. He is very much a guy who could defy XWOA in an ongoing sense. 344 weighted on base against the 299 right now, but that speed alone gets him to first base before the ball with regularity. Kyle Isbell, mixer, 6 home runs, 6 steals, a little bit of a surge over a couple of weeks that doesn't really mean anything that we talked about. John Rave, 13% barrel rate is interesting. It's turned into just 3 home runs over 78 chances in a bad slash line, but the contact alone is interesting. 330 xWOBA against a 331 actual, 232 ISO in limited sample. Nick Lofton, no more than a mixer across multiple positions and barely even that. Vinny Pasquantino's been good since getting back to the lineup. Overall, pretty lower-end season, but a lot of reason to believe in Vinny and what he does at the plate. If it's intact right now at these prices, you're getting a very nice discount on a very good bat, particularly at 28 on FanDuel. Sal Perez, we're just hunting for the good batted ball. 17 homers on the season. A lot of diminishment going on with Sal that we're acknowledging for sure. Against a pitcher who does suppress power, it's not the best spot in the world for Sal. I'd probably focus more on some of the lefties with Carter Jensen, with Jack Kaggs, Vinny Pasquantino. Caglianone back in the lineup, by the way. 22 homers on the season and 469 chances. Premium contact like crazy. 14.4% barrel, 55% hard hit. And then Bobby Witt, the superstar. 16 homers, 35 steals, 126 WRC plus. Outrageous option at shortstop on any given slate. Carter Jensen is cheap, by the way, 28.41 in the leadoff role. Not getting on enough to be a true leadoff hitter, but just getting a little bit of lefty power uptick out of that spot, going up against the pitcher. Why not pick off the good batted ball event for such cheap prices, especially if you're not going with Sal? Another two teams right next to each other in frustrating ways, showing different attributes. I like Kansas City better. I think that's a better team. I think that's a better lineup in a better spot. And that's why they're ranked above. They have comparable numbers, even though these probabilities on the breakout games are slightly higher. They're comparable enough, and I'm comfortable with how they compare with the very top of the board through that. They do have more suppressed Vegas total. They do have a more suppressed or a similarly suppressed home run total to be aware of, and they're showing less point per dollar value. But it is just inarguably a better lineup. The Blue Jays against Dobnak, it's the complete opposite argument. They're a bad lineup in an okay spot. If Dobnak's not striking anybody out, just walking too many people, putting guys on base and allowing all the contact in the world, that's how they get to that long tail. But like what we've talked about with the Guardians yesterday, I forget who the day before, I think there's something that goes through that model against walk rate pretty aggressively that creates some of these spikes that we see. So that's how I would explain that away a little bit. The Blue Jays do look very playable around that Vegas total, those probabilities, and how they rate through for points per dollar, though. So two teams dead tied in the middle. I'll slightly put Kansas City on top, KC, Toronto. And then I think it would definitely be, if you had to gun to your head and had to play a pitcher from this game, it's Dobnak, because Miles isn't going very far in this game, but Dobnak's not going to take you to a good point total for the money. Much more in play on DraftKings at that price, but not even in the bargain bin. He's too expensive. Right from here, I want somebody cheaper. Just look at how that compares to all these other guys. Doesn't work. All right, 528. Doing okay on that pace. Said 6 o'clock. I think we get there. Brewers, 468 implied. Mets, 392. Mets going up against Dustin May. Nice cheap price on DK. That is the pitcher of the day over there price-wise. He's going to get very popular at that price, by the way, but I think he's worth it. Well above average across all three of the plus categories, including several fantastic pitches. Right? It's about the sinker-slider combo for Dustin May, whether he lives or dies. 22.6% strikeout could be a little bit better. In seasons past, he's found moments where he's inducing more swinging strike, finding more strikeout upside. He's got that in his game. It's just not fully unlocked. 4.57 ERA against a 3.95 xFIP, a little bit better under the surface. Limits premium contact to some degrees. 11.7% launch, 11.7 degree average launch, and a 6.8% barrel rate. That's a good confluence of circumstances, mostly around that sinker, where the high-end barrel rate, the high-end exit velocity events, which this is approaching our threshold. This is way over our threshold in terms of hard hits. They're colliding mostly with the low launch angle events. So it's coming through as a 1.72% home run rate, but know that you get the slightly mislocated pitch. There is some home run downside that comes around the level of exit velocity, the frequency of hard hit that Dustin May can give up. So again, when he goes bad, it goes very, very bad. But he can also be elite level good. He's facing a low-end Mets lineup that has underperformed throughout the season. This is a more talented lineup than the results have been basically all year long. Still healthy respect and fear for Frankie Lindor, as we're talking about the opposing pitcher. If you're going to the Mets bats, 4,200, 3,200 for the shortstop. Phenomenal pricing. AJ Ewing in the leadoff role, 317 on base. Solid mixer in the outfield, 19 stolen bases. Ultimately, right now, playing like just another outfielder, but not mispriced for that level of talent. Bo Bichette at 4,000, 2,800, 14 homers. Low-end slash line for him, but okay enough for that money. You take the name off that spot, and okay, those stats match up with those prices. It's fine if I'm using this team. Carson Bench, one of their better players all year long, 16 homers, 19 steals, 342 on base, 116 WRC plus. Price hasn't budged. 3,900, 3,000. Didn't mean to put budget and bench in the same sentence, but there you go. I don't get why he's not increased in price on DraftKings. FanDuel maybe a little bit of price tax there, but I think he backs up these numbers just in an ongoing sense. I think this is very much who he is. Jared Young, healthy amount of lefty pop in that bat. If you're throwing wild cards at Dustin May, Jared Young for 2,800 at first, 25 first base or outfield on FanDuel, not a bad power upside option. He's hit 8 home runs in 268 plate appearances and 46.4% hard hits. Lou Bob, star caliber talent, never here enough to really figure it out. 10 home runs on the board. Definitely a mixer at worst at these prices, 34.28, very cheap for the raw talent. 332 XWOB under 323 actual, 105 WRC plus, over 201 plate appearances. Not completely dead. Brett Beatty hits the ball hard, 9.2% barrel, 41.4% hard hit for just 27 at second base, 26 with 4 positions on FanDuel. He's had a very down season, 399 bad plate appearances, just 8 home runs, but the contact is relatively intact. It's not quite where it was last year, but it's certainly not crashed back down to where it was in those seasons. So there's reason to believe any given slate upside for Brett Beatty. And again, if Dustin May goes sideways, that's a player that I want in my lineup. Marcus Semien, a lot less so. No real reason to believe in anything coming through for Semien, but has hit 14 homers, stolen 9 bases. If you're just looking at some cheap counting stats, Frankie Alvarez is the interesting bat down there, particularly on DK, 3,200 for a guy with a 15.5% barrel rate, 13 home runs and 341 chances. I really don't care about the slash line, but he's drawn more walks this season. Strikeouts have gone up a little bit now. At one point they were down, but it's a very talented power bat for such a cheap price where you need the position. So definitely on the radar on DraftKings as you're stacking with this team, but the Mets, one of the lower end, lower middle type. No, lower end options outside of point per dollar value on DraftKings. Brewers going up against Stock, pitching to a 5.40 ERA, 5.32 xFIP over 16 2/3 in his 4 outings. Where are you, Bobby? That adds up to 4 1/3 last time out. Faced 19 Padres, struck out 6, walked 3, 4 1/3 the start before that. Faced 21 Nationals, 1 unearned run on 3 hits, struck out 5, walked 3. You get one of those kind of days, you're maybe okay at the 5,000 like we talked about in the pitcher breakdown. You get the 3-inning, 8-run day that he had against Pittsburgh, you're obviously dead in the water at any price. Does have a little bit of talent, though. In the minors, made 6 starts, a couple relief appearances, through 21 2/3, had 31 strikeouts over that. So there's a little bit of strikeout-based potential at the very, very cheap SP2 price on DraftKings. I just wouldn't expect much depth beyond 5 innings. He did go 5 on August 2nd, though, against the Marlins, so he can do it. Did not go 5 in any of his minor league appearances. But maybe for the ultra cheap price on a pretty thin pitching slate, maybe you can get there a few times on DraftKings. At 68 on FanDuel, I'm really not feeling it. No depth for the quality start. Brewers bats against him too. That 4.68 implied total kind of stands out. All their sequencing and on base skills, just elite through that. That said, no Jackson Churio at the top of the lineup. We get Sal Frelick today, 27-26. Sal, not nearly the same player, a slap hitter who doesn't get on base nearly enough. 77 WRC plus in a down season for Sal, but the raw skills are there in terms of the hit tool, a little bit of speed. So not a terrible option as a table setter. Very low strikeout, lower medium walk rate, puts a lot of balls in play. Garrett Mitchell in the 2 spots, really interesting. 12.6% barrel, 51.5% hard hit, 9 home runs, 12 steals. Talked about him all year long. An elite 359 on base, 349 xWOBA, matching a 344 actual, 119 WRC plus. Just lacks the actual output. 158 ISO is not in line with a 12.6% barrel, 51.5% hard hit. I suspect there's a lot of really crushed atom balls in there. But when he figures out location a little bit, or gets under the ball and starts putting it into the seats a little bit more, look out. That is a good player. Bryce Terang, 54-36, not bad. 16 homers, 18 steals, solid slash line, 117 WRC plus. Christian Yelich in the lineup today, 45-31, solid lefty over time. Throwing him up against a young pitcher like Robert Stock without a lot of track record here. How old is Robert Stock, actually? I said young, but he's been around a little bit. Yeah, Stock's been in the league since 2018. He's 36. Never mind. Not young. Old. I knew we'd seen Stock. He's only thrown 92 overall innings in the show over since 2018, but I knew we'd seen him before. 61 appearances overall, 7 starts. But yeah, 36. Not young. So yeah, throwing Christian Yelich up against a guy with limited experience and very old, a quad A type pitcher, seems like a reasonable option to me. 10% barrel, 43% hard hits. The numbers are down overall, but it's still Christian Yelich in there. And some reason to believe a lot of the strikeout, the walk rate numbers look similar to last year. There's the premium contact is not far off the mark. The barrel rate's essentially the same, just a little bit less frequency of hard hit. Still Christian Yelich. William Contreras at 43, 3,000. Price is down. Performance has slipped a little bit, but 271, 342, 397, a dozen home runs. Very, very good run creator, good on base option. Luis Lara, solid mixer in the outfield at a cheap price. 125 pretty good plate appearances so far. Andrew Vaughn, I'm going to sing his praises at those cheap prices. First and third base at 37, first base at 27. He's only slashing 308, 396, 454 with 5 home runs and 278 plate appearances and a 139 WRC plus. I have no idea why he's so cheap. Use him if you use the Brewers. David Hamilton, mix and match piece. Cooper Pratt in the lineup. I was wondering if we would see him today. He got benched mid-game yesterday for failing to get a bunt down multiple times and then not running out a blooper to right field. But back in the lineup today. Murph just sending a message to the kid. Dustin May, Brewers bats, Mets bats, Robert Stock on DraftKings, Robert Stock on FanDuel. Dodgers, one of the classier spots of the day. Third ranked by projection on FanDuel, second on DraftKings, 9th and 5th by point per dollar because they're just expensive. They are 13th by home run quality. Little bit of impact there. Smith-Shawver just 2 starts, 8 2/3 on the season, yet to allow a home run this year, but a little bit larger sample last year, 44 1/3, 9 starts, 2.08% home runs. It did come with plenty of premium contact, though, so I'm a little skeptical about how real that number remains. Year before, similar levels of premium contact, but that was only 4 1/3. Year before that, we're talking about 25 1/3, was giving up a bunch of home runs in that short sample, but yeah, it's very difficult to make anything of those extremely short samples for Smith-Shawver. Come on. There he is. There's no good spot to have the innings and the home run at the same spot, is there? There we go. 28 2/3 down on the farm this year. And Smith-Shawver, by the way, still just 23. So it's not like we're tracking a ultra old player against this level. But in 7 starts, 28 2/3, 7 innings, 2 starts came at just A ball, and then 5 at AAA this year. Had given up 1 home run to 111 hitters. Prior to that, a lot of long balls that year. 21 home runs allowed to 372 over 89 innings in minor league ball. That was on first promotion. 20 of those came at AAA. That was in 2024 when he was only 21. Early promotion there. So kid just giving up a lot of homers in the after a big aggressive promotion. I might have to give the Dodgers a little bit more meat on the bone for power. It would just be speculating, though. Not sure what to do with that. I hate these short sample situations that crop up, especially late season. Smith-Shawver, though, very good. Demonstrably good. Maybe not fully figured out. Certainly not going to pitch deep into this game, even if he's doing well against the Dodgers here. So I don't think he's in the mix. That was just me trying to figure out what I want to do with those Dodgers home run marks. It's not like you get nothing on Ohtani, Freeman, Mookie, and Max, but against the downside that was visible in some of that aggressive premium contact from last year, some of those couple of years ago AAA numbers, I'll weigh it in the 20 minutes between now and 6 o'clock, and then I'll update the site. Keep an eye on it. Dodgers, if anything, they trend up. Even if they don't trend up, they look terrific here anyway. So one of the top stacks of the day, one of the most likely teams to go up over 8 runs, up over 10 runs, second most likely in both categories. In fact, behind just the Nationals, or they're first in 10 plus, actually. So plenty of potential there going up against Smith-Shawver. In the other direction, the Braves, they only talked about the power upside that they're showing against Roki. Roki's worked to a 4.26% home run on some very clear premium contact issues with a not too aggressive fly ball trajectory, but the ball is definitely in the air with enough frequency. He also walks too many, so there's guys on base when that happens. Okay strikeout rate, good inducer of swinging strikes. When he needs them, he can find the punch outs. He's got some filthy, filthy stuff, but definitely some downside that you can throw some brave bats at. 407 implied total. My hope would be that they go under-owned in the spot because their Vegas total's not great. And I think maybe they're just masked by some people wanting to use rookie at cheap prices. I don't think he's unplayable, but give me Braves bats. 3 guys in the lineup above the magic number. Another couple guys floating around it. It's the usual suspects. Drake Baldwin, 13.74. Acuna just below it at 9.88. He's hit 13 and stolen 18 bases and 352 chances, showing his superstar talent. 21 long balls for Drake Baldwin. He's been tremendous all season long. Hits for average, gets on base like crazy in addition to the power. Just an excellent catcher option on any given slate. Hits from the left side and leads off. You can't really ask for much more, and he's below 5,000. I don't really get it on DraftKings. Mauricio Dubon miscast in the cleanup role. Let's be honest about things, but 10 home runs and an adequate slash line over 504 plate appearances. And you can play him there if you're just looking at him as not the traditional type cleanup hitter, as the type of cleanup hitter that's just going to get on base, reset the table for Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies, after Matty Olson, the home run pick of the day today, goes out and blasts one into the seats. He's hit 36 on the season, carrying a 14.12 against Sasaki today. I love the upside for a Matt Olson. Big day today. Harris having a good year overall. Numbers have slipped somewhat down to 293, 319, 491, but it's still, anyway you slice it, a tremendous season. And the kid's got tons of raw ability that's finally come through consistently more this year. 10 plus in the home run model, carrying a 10.6% barrel, 48.6% hard hit. He's just good. Ozzie Albies went deep. Wait, no. Am I misremembering that? I think he had 20 home runs. He did something yesterday. Knocked in a run, I believe, in a big spot. I'm misremembering the highlight from this morning's show. Never mind any of that. Ozzie Albies provides numbers, even though the underlying stuff says he shouldn't. He just consistently keeps on doing it. Cheap prices at 42.29 at second base. Easy to use. Yastrzemski, limited option this year overall. Only 9 home runs. Still making okay contact. 44.3% hard hits is actually pretty decent. Just not finding the results that we've seen from him in years past, but just pick off a cheap lefty down lineup. He's very playable against this pitcher if we're looking at that home run power. Austin Riley has gained back some of his premium contact. Not his numbers overall, though. 15 home runs. Going to be a struggle to get to 20 on this season when he used to be a consistent over 30 guy. Sean Murphy, very limited at the bottom of the lineup, but also very, very cheap for a guy who used to blast home runs pretty regularly. If you're going to the Dodgers against Smith Shawver, it's pretty obvious. Among those top 4 guys, everybody's a superstar. Even Mookie in a diminished year has 16 home runs in 400 plate appearances. Just a 90 WRC plus, but a lot to shoot for with that 325 xWOBA, reflecting some of his quality. Still low strikeout, low walk, tons of well-struck balls in play. Still Mookie Betts in a big way. Max Muncy's an absolute star, 3 true outcomes hitter. 26 home runs, great on base skills, great walk rate. Max does a lot for this lineup from the middle of it. Ohtani's Ohtani, Freddie Freeman's Freddie Freeman. No explanation necessary. You just play those guys if you can afford them. Going down lineup, Tommy Edman, not a bad mixer at 35-28. He's having a good year. When Tommy's going right, he's getting on base. He's contributing the occasional home run, stealing the occasional bag, and scoring a lot of runs. Ahead of Kyle Tucker, that's not a bad spot in the lineup. Even with as bad as he's been, Tucker brings a lot to the plate when he figures it out. Still just 18.4% strikeouts, draws a 12% walk rate that bolsters the numbers a little. Getting on at a 325 clip is okay. 325 xWOBA against the 308 actual, slightly above average against pretty below average. 6 points below average for run creation on the season. I get it. This is why he's only 3,000 now. That's why he's only 37 on DraftKings. This is aggressively, stupidly too cheap for his talent. I don't care about these this year. Even last year's Kyle Tucker. 266, 377, 464, 136 WRC plus, 22 homers, 25 steals. He's well off those marks. But if you knew that he was going to be these prices against those numbers from last year, which were already diminished compared to who he was in Houston, you would have been excited to roster him today. You would have been looking forward all year long. You would have had the date circled on your calendar. Of course, he hasn't delivered through most of the season, but if you squint, 71 runs, 57 ribbies, a couple steals, all the talent that he needs, that's still a good DFS play at these prices. Alec Thomas, a mixer at 24-25. Teoscar Hernandez, monster power upside for 33-29. Just like with Tucker, even though he slipped this season, and reason to believe that we might not claw our way back up to premium levels with Teoscar, there's still enough premium contact there. There's still 11 home runs on the board in 370 plate appearances that if you just ignore the name and look at the prices against the stats, those are fine from the 8th spot in the lineup. Definitely more than a mixer from down there. Hunter Fiducia just here to do the catching. Dodgers, Braves. I was about to say Roki over Smith over, and I said, let me look at how I actually have them projected, and it's 21.32 against 21.31. I do think it's Roki because I don't think there's a path for Smith Shawver to get you to a quality start, get you 6 innings, and Roki on a good day does have that. So I'll lean Roki over Smith Shawver. 3 to go. Got to hit that gas pedal to get us out by 6. Love the power upside that the Rangers are showing up top. 2 guys over the magic number at 10 for Jock Peterson, Corey Seager, the big lefties, leading into Wyatt Langford and all his quality. 328 on base, 15 homers, 10 steals, a 123 WRC plus. Is overperforming overall with that 345 weighted on base against the 314 xwOBA. But I think there's more skill that starts to emerge, and we normalize toward the current performance level weighted on base when it's all said and done, if that makes sense to you as far as how xwOBA works. Brendan Nimmo, another lefty in this lineup who crushes baseballs, 50.7% hard hits, basically the same hard hit rate that Jock Peterson has, better than Corey Seager this year. 10.2% barrel. He's right there for power upside. Less consistent of a home run hitter, 13 in 538 plate appearances, 109 WRC plus, though he's been good and has the room to get better and be better on any given slate. Ezekiel Duran, solid mixer at these prices across multiple positions, 14 homers, 10 steals. You've probably already gotten the best part of Ezekiel Duran's season, but any given slate, there's plenty of upside there. Evan Carter, disappointing season, disappointing beginning of his career. Once upon a time, was supposed to be a low strikeout, high-quality line drive hitter. Has not figured it out at this level yet, 81 WRC+. Justin Foscue kind of has, though. 9 homers, 128 WRC plus, 351 against the 333 weighted on base numbers, 11.2% barrels too. 37 is a good price for that at second base, 25 even better on FanDuel. Elias Diaz, Cody Freeman just mixers at the bottom, though Freeman 50 pretty successful plate appearances so far. On the White Sox side, Murakami blasting over the magic number, 10.98. Colson Montgomery out of the lineup against the lefty. So further diminishment for the White Sox. You do get Miguel Vargas from the right side against Mackenzie Gore here. He's hit 29 home runs, stolen 12 bags in a tremendous breakout year. And it's very real. He makes contact that would definitely lead to this kind of power output. 369 weighted on base. Guess what? He's underperformed with these elite numbers by about 20 points of weighted on base against that xwOBA. 138 WRC plus. Tremendous. Randall Grichuk, 2 spots later from the right side, is only 3,100, 25 on FanDuel. He's hit 11 home runs in 205 plate appearances, makes fantastic upside power-based contact against lefties and always has done, has been over 20 home runs multiple times in his career, and give him another 200 plate appearances. I like him to get there. We're not going to get it, but if you could, that's a good option at those prices against the lefty, guys. That's, Murakami, I'm not worried about lefty against basically anybody here. 26% strikeout for Mackenzie Gore, 8.4% walk. He's pitched well under the surface despite that 4.26 ERA. But what he does do is give up fly ball premium contact. Just under the threshold there, over, just under 16.4 degree average launch. That should be a point higher, approaching 4% home runs. So definitely a targetable enough starter with Vargas, Grichuk, Murakami. And then you start just playing games around guys like Chase Mydroth, maybe Braden Montgomery, both guys fairly priced. Mydroth found a lot of success this year. 12 unexpected home runs, finding the barrel a little bit more consistently. He was talking about it on Central the other day. It's deliberate. He's actually come away with a nice little uptick there. Not at the expense of too much. Hit for a little bit more average, but 271, 344 is pretty great. 111 WRC plus. It's a good bat. Another guy, not a traditional cleanup hitter, but if we're looking at Grichuk to clear the bases, then Mydroth can reset them, lead into Braden Montgomery. He hasn't found his talent at this level yet, but okay over 265 plate appearances. Okay enough to be playable, especially with that near 11% walk rate, the 41.7% hard hits for the switch hitter. I think Brenton Doyle is potentially more interesting than both of those guys. Doyle's 3,300. He's 2,500 on FanDuel. He's maddeningly inconsistent at the plate, strikes out way too much, doesn't draw enough walk, but he's got power. He's got speed. Had an okay game yesterday. When he's in the lineup, he can deliver here and there. And again, we're talking about a guy who just, while with the Rockies, admittedly, with help from Coors Field, just 2 years ago, over 603 plate appearances, 23 homers, 30 steals, over 97 WRC plus shows the inconsistency, the lack of ongoing run creation. And he cratered around that number last year, 65 WRC plus across 538. He still did hit 15 home runs and stole 18 bases last year, though, 57 runs and 57 ribbies. He was not, even in a bad year, completely dead as far as a DFS play. Going back in time, 10 homers, 22 steals back in 431 plate appearances on his way up in 2023. Plays elite center field defense. Wish that counted for anything, but nice and cheap for what the skill set really is for Brenton Doyle. If you bullseye that on the right day, you get a big boost. Very inconsistent, very difficult to actually do it. Mackenzie Gore, again, is very good, but if I'm looking to do that with Doyle, it would be typically against lefties. So this would be the spot. Jake Rogers, a lot of barrels in his game, but no real consistent output. 4 homers and 144 chances. Tristan Peters having a nice year. 11 homers, 277, 342, 460, a 125 WRC plus unexpectedly. Wow. 3,000, 2,600, but lefty not going to do him favors. Luis Angel, not much of a bat at the bottom of the lineup. Just the pitching real quick. Both these guys are very much in play as much as I would play either of these lineups. This is a definite pitching spot because 9,091 is not bad for Burke. Tremendous year, 3.27 ERA against the 3.72 xFIP, perfectly fine. 26.5% strikeout against 7% walks is good, just under our 20% that we're looking for to call him an ace, but he might get there before it's all said and done. Little bit of a dip the last couple starts, but I'm not worried about it, and hopefully that renders him under-owned. And then Gore, not a pitcher people really trust, nice and cheap at 83 on DraftKings. Hopefully you sneak him through at lower ownership against a gettable White Sox spot. So overall, this is Burke, Gore, both these teams are like down here. I'll go with the stacks board. Burke, Gore, Rangers, White Sox. Rangers third by home run as the tiebreaker there. 553. Orioles showing some interesting marks as we talked about at the very beginning of the show. 4th across the 2 probability marks of going over 8 and 10 runs scored. They're only 11th in that Vegas total, so maybe they're a little bit less visible to the slate, to the public. That would create an opportunity. 4th ranked across home runs, 4th ranked by value, 3rd ranked by value on FanDuel, 6th by points on both sites. Plenty of quality through this lineup. Pete Alonso having a season, 31 homers, 364 on base, a 146 WRC plus. I get to throw him into Michael McGreevy, who strikes out just 17%. Doesn't really have a walks issue, but has a kind of an issue with premium contact. 9.8% barrel on a 10.9 degree average launch, 42.4% hard hits, and 89.9 miles an hour of exit velo. We are at our thresholds on every single one of those categories, despite only being over our threshold in hard hit rate. 3.23% home run rate. Good luck getting out of this one unscathed, guy. Love Pete Alonso here. I like Jackson Holiday a lot at 3,827 when he's leading off ahead of Alonso. Nice piece of correlated scoring at second base. He's getting on at a 325 clip. He's hit 6 home runs, stolen 7 bases, has a lot of raw skills that have not completely coalesced, but had an underappreciated year last year that we've talked about a few times. 17 homers, 17 stolen bases, scored 70 runs, drove in 55. 304, 313, weighted on base and XWOB with just a 96 WRC plus. Obviously not where you want him. The on base, the slug, not exactly where you would want him. But the counting stats, in a very Jordan Walker kind of a way, were underappreciated in that season. That could lead to a lot next year. And on this slate tonight, Gunnar Henderson from the left side against this pitcher. Yes, please. 20 home runs, 10 stolen bases. Down season in a big way for Gunnar, but monster upside in this slate, in this game against a pitcher who's going to allow him to make as much contact as McGreevy is. Sammy Basayo, by the same token, from the left side. A lot of power. 13.1% barrel, 45.5% hard hit. 17 homers and only 331 chances. Nice and cheap. You can play him in conjunction with Alonso on FanDuel. 4,000 at catcher on DraftKings is tremendous. You do have Carlos Narvaez at the mid price where you need the catcher spot. He'd be more of consideration for DraftKings just as a variable for the dead min. A lot less relevant to the FanDuel slate at the 2,200. In between those guys, Christian Encarnacion Strand, don't sleep on him. 10.04 to lead the team in the home run model today. He's hit 7 in 109 chances. This is Encarnacion Strand finally paying off what his actual upside was supposed to be. Monster, prodigious levels of power. Not a 3 true outcomes guy because he doesn't draw walks, at least not yet. A lot of strikeout in his game, but crazy good power. Dylan Beavers from the left side. not a bad mixer. 6 home runs, 5 steals, and 252 chances. A little pop in the bat. Leody Taveras has always been a mix and match outfielder who can fill categories across all 4 counting stats. Colton Cowser hit a bunch of home runs a couple years ago, 12 on the season this year and 310 diminished plate appearances, just a 97 WRC plus, still an 11.2% barrel. If I'm hunting for cheap premium contact down lineup, Colton Cowser is really interesting against this pitcher. On the card side, 4.31 implied against Kyle Bradish. Bradish comes in with a 2.56% home run rate allowed, keeping the ball to a under 10-degree average launch while inducing weak and medium contact. Little impact on the home run numbers, even on a guy like Jordan Walker, Alec Burleson, J.J. Weatherholt in the leadoff spot. Only Jordan Walker above even halfway to the magic number. That said, Kyle Bradish pitching to a 3.70 ERA, but a 4.04 xFIP, 4.32 Sierra under the surface, walking way too many at 10.2% against just 22% strikeouts. So there are visible warts on Kyle Bradish. When he's good, he can be very good. He projects out okay, especially for the prices at 8,000, 8,100 against this up and down Cardinals team. I think you can easily use Kyle Bradish at the exact same level. I think you use Cardinals bats against. If we're going in that direction, JJ's a priority. 47-32, play him at second base, get a better shortstop. 17 homers, 14 steals, 347 on base, 107 WRC plus. One of many fantastic young players this season. Ivan Herrera, 4,200, 3,100, 14 homers, 358 on base, 110 WRC plus. Maybe he's not Gabby Moreno, but another very, very underpriced catcher pretty consistently. Alec Burleson at 5,234, having the season of his life with 21 home runs on the board, 356 on base, a 133 WRC plus. Slightly outpaced by Jordan Walker's 134 WRC plus for the team lead. Love that guy. 27 homers, 18 steals. Absolutely carrying the weight for the dynasty team all season long, with O'Neal Cruz missing multiple weeks. Aaron Judge dead for half the season. Jordan Walker's the only thing keeping the offense alive. Nathan Church, Jose Furman, Nolan Gorman, Brian Torres, Jimmy Crooks going down the lineup. The two lefties, Nolan Gorman and Jimmy Crooks, are the guys you want to focus on down there just for the power and premium contact upside. Both guys have elite ability to put bat on ball. Both guys also strike out at 30+% clips and are below the Mendoza line, below 300 on base guys. So you just want to pick off one good batted ball event, and that's all you're getting. A lot of zeros from those guys. They're both very cheap. Nolan Gorman, second base, third base eligible, dead mid price. That's a guy with several seasons of solid handfuls of major league home runs in his pocket already. Down season last year, but 14 homers in 402, 19 in 402 the year before that, 27 in 464 the year before that. I feel like I made my point. Mid-priced, not a bad way to find them. Orioles bats, Cardinals bats, Kyle Bradish, Michael McGreevy. McGreevy at 65, by the way, playable SP2 on DraftKings. We talked about it in the pitching rundown. He's here. I don't want to short sell him too much. He just doesn't come with much ceiling because he's not a strikeout guy. But as your SP2, value-wise, that's perfectly fine to go to, and safer probably than Connor Prelip. Prelip, higher ceiling, much bigger basement. And we're about to talk about that in the last game of the show. 5:59, we failed to hit 6 o'clock. Damn, came close, though. Last one up, Connor Prelip, 62-77, 24.8% Ks. When he's good, he can be very good and find strikeout upside. He walks a few too many. When he's bad, the premium contact comes up and bites him. 41.7% hard hits, 90.4 miles an hour of exit velo, just a 3.19% home run rate, totally manageable. And you can see how above average he is across all 3+ categories. This is a talented kid. The 5.57 ERA is masking a 3.97 xFIP, 3.96 Sierra. We're around a 4-run rookie right now. It's perfectly fine. Just a really bad situation in this ballpark, but a much more gettable version of this lineup for the A's. They'll throw some right-handed hitters at him, but again, as I've said a couple times already, you're talking about Zach Geloff, Henry Bolte, Jonah Heim, Tommy White. Not intimidating. If he can fade the ballpark, you're in business. 6,200, nice and cheap on DK. 77 feels a little less necessary on FanDuel. JT Ginn, similar thing. 68 maybe playable on DK as a dart, but I'd rather have Prelip on the other side against the worst of these two lineups. 87, I don't think we're considering JT Ginn on FanDuel. 3.60 ERA, but a 4.23 xFIP, 4.36 Sierra. Some nice starts for sure this year. Has some strikeout stuff when he's going right, but only 21.3 against a 9.9% walk rate. You can see where the problems start to come in. Twins at a 5.67 implied total. Project out slightly lighter than that in terms of the probabilities going over 8 and 10 runs. Still one of the best 5 teams in that category, or excuse me, 6 teams. They rank 6th by 8-run, 5th by 10 run. But you can see that diminishment is compared to, say, the Nats, the Dodgers, and how they compare favorably with the Astros, the Orioles that we just talked about. The Blue Jays, I have less belief in, but those numbers do, back up the potential for upside. And that doesn't even include teams like the Yankees floating there at, reason to believe in success, even though it doesn't quite measure up in those probability categories. So the Twins are very playable. It is the Coors Field spot of the day again, but I think the field probably gets carried away with them again. You get Josh Bell back in the lineup. Very good RBI numbers from Bell, just exploiting all of the opportunity. That said, with Brooks Lee hitting 2 today, 300 on base out of Brooks Lee, that's not going to do the opportunity-based upside any favors on Josh Bell. You do have a 363 on base on Luke Keeschel in the leadoff role. That's very good for that. So maybe he sees the chance anyway, but a little bit diminished by not having that second ultra high-end on base ahead of him. That said, 47, 3,000, still a nice price. He's having a good year, 17 home runs, a 108 WRC plus, very, very playable. Lee is more of a mix and match guy. He has hit those 20 home runs, but it doesn't match the contact he makes, as we've talked about a lot. Lower end guy, 103 WRC plus, but a 319 weighted on base is already a point below average, and 271 xWOB against that. Keishel's the better guy up there. He fits second base on FanDuel too. Outfield on DraftKings for 45. Keishel's much more of just another outfielder on DraftKings, but if you're going to this team, you're obviously including him in the mix. Ryan Jeffers at 52.33, one of the better hitting catchers on the slate, but those are high prices. He's going to get very popular against those high prices. Something to be cautious about, I think, as you're rostering. 56 for Cody Clemens, most expensive player on DraftKings, on the DraftKings slate on this team. 2,900 on FanDuel, completely different situation. 4 positions on FanDuel, second base only. That's where you want him anyway on DraftKings, more often than not. But that's more limiting. He's hit 21 home runs. He gets to face a vulnerable enough righty today. Although JT Ginn, it is worth noting, only a 10.2 degree average launch this year, 5.4% barrel, has been very good at inducing weak and medium contact. Those are not necessarily attributes that he's had in the past. The launch angle is, but not the contact, not the home run limiting. That's kind of an interesting little note to throw into the mix there. But I love the power upside that Cody Clemens brings to bear, 8.67 in the home run model. He's hit 21 on the season. Lower end as far as the slash goes, but still a 107 WRC plus and thunder in the bat from the left side. Royce Lewis, a solid mixer at 49.31. A little expensive on DK, first base only. I don't love the positioning against the price. Would play him in an abundance of twin stacks, but maybe not my first one. I want a better first baseman, Matt Olson, somebody like that in there. 13 homers, 13 steals, but crazy inconsistent, just a 98 WRC plus. Larnach gets on base, 346 on base, only 10 home runs this year. In years past, he's hit the ball a little bit harder, a little bit more consistently. He's traded that for lowering the strikeout, pushing the walks a little bit this year, and it's worked out. 115 WRC plus. It's a good bat, but I'd prefer him up here where I can get him into Josh Bell. Kalen Culpepper at 36.25. Hot shot rookie. Pretty good 59 plate appearances so far. Just needs to keep up what he's doing. He's still cheap. You're paying no tax. Might as well take advantage. And then Alan Roden, cheap hit tool focused player in the 9 spot. That's not a terrible wraparound. That is a guy that people will not be playing aggressively. So cheapo Roden from the bottom. I want a 5-man this. 1-2 right there. I like Keeschel at the slightly higher price. I'll take Bell along for the ride and probably right into Ryan Jeffers. And then I'll probably end up deciding to sacrifice. That doesn't work out, does it? I'm not taking the catcher. That's what I'm doing. I'm getting different by fading the Jeffers spot and doing that. Keeschel, Bell, Cody, Culpepper, and Roden. 4,240 apiece, 21-2 total to play in this ballpark against that 5.67 implied total. That's awfully cheap. Getting to their best bats. That's the exact 5-man I would build on DraftKings if I was playing this team. On the A's side, as mentioned, Geloff now their best player. 14 homers, 9 steals. Good season with a 111 WRC plus, finding the power stroke again with consistency, but I don't want to pay $5,500 for Zach Geloff even against a lefty, but against a lefty that I have a healthy respect for. I think this kid is actually good. 32 on FanDuel is more reasonable, but still expensive. Jonah Heim very much in the mix if you're going to this team, but otherwise not really. 3,900. He's cheap. He's hit 11 home runs in 306 chances. Okay. Henry Bolte is actually good. 276, 351, 379 start to his career, over 341 chances, a 101 WRC plus, some stolen bases along the way. Little pop in the bat as well. 47.4% hard hit shows that off a little bit more than the 7.1% barrel. Should be a player who ends up with a lot of doubles in his game and, the occasional home run upside with some speed. I like the talent, like the spot in the lineup, but it's limited going down the board. I should have tried to update this lineup before I started talking about it, by the way. Tommy White, 9.1% barrel is really the only thing to write home about with him. And he's in the 5 spot. Lawrence Butler slides up to the 3. Lefty against Connor Prelip. Probably not going to do him many favors. 227, 320, 365 overall. 11 home runs, 9 steals. Greatly diminished overall. 44, just another outfielder, really. 2,700. The prices are okay. White, again, just looking at that barrel rate, low strikeout, some good bat on ball over 135. It's led to very, very little, but maybe some believable, visible upside for cheap at third base if you're desperate and going to this team already. Michael Stefanich, meh. Brian Servant, meh. Alika Williams, Darrell are nice. There's nothing down lineup for this team. That is another reason to really not believe in the crazy high-end game for the A's. They have that 495 implied total, mostly on the back of the ballpark. You can see where they come up in the long tails. 16th, 17th, just 12% probable going over 8. Under 5% probable going over 10. They don't compare favorably with the good teams on the board. Could they get there? Of course. Will they get there? Seems less than likely. And that, gang, at 6:07, little OT, is our show. Home run pick of the day, once again, Matty Olson. Here's your stacks board again. Make sure you come back after the show ends and enter the pitching picks contest. Win yourself a free month of content at rotoscouts.com. Got to get a quality start plus 8 or more strikeouts. A quality start is 6 innings of 3 or fewer earned runs. First to 5 correct wins. Andy GPS in the lead with 3. Nobody else has more than 1. 3 guys tied with 1. You got to use the same YouTube handle every day. 1 pick per person per day. I'm not taking anybody off this ugly pitching slate. You can have them all. Hit the like button on your way out the door. Subscribe to the channel if you get a chance. Join the Discord. There's a link in the description for the video down there. Travis Wyndham took his like back. I don't remember why nearly an hour ago. Still appreciate you, buddy, if you're out there. I think I kept that like, I'm guessing. Anyway, guys, have a great slate. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do. Good luck out there. Share those results, et cetera, et cetera. I mixed up my closing line today. Screwed the whole thing up. You'll be thinking about that all week. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share the results when you do at Rotoscouts on Twitter or in the premium Discord, which is linked in the description. Use promo code TRYME, all one word, capital T, capital M, for a free first week on a weekly plan. Go check out rotoscouts.com, guys. Projections will be updated in mere minutes. Football content hitting sometime in the next 24 hours to start you off for your football seasons. Go get them. Questionable whether there'll be a show tomorrow night. I'm going to try and get to the Yankee game. Projections will be fired up. Short Thursday night slate tomorrow. So we'll see. Keep an eye on the site. Later, gang.